friends, this is Joshy over at Let You Know Gaming, and I just wanted to let you know I've been playing Tombstone, a new indie game developed by Max Moraz and Jake Wagner over at Moth Atlas. Besides the fact that Tombwater, the name itself reminds me of one of the greatest Western movies ever made, Tombstone. You know, Kurt Russell's legendary in it, Doc Holliday, what a character. But it also, I'm a huge metalhead, and it also makes me think, how great of a death metal band name that would be, Tombwater. I could just picture myself being a bass player in Tombwater. It's just a great name. It really rings a bell for me, and I'm always curious and fascinated. Like, how do we come up with names? Where do we find these names? I think my uneducated guess would be that like this is kind of related to the movie Tombstone, but maybe they're just having a couple of beers and they just kind of randomly came up with it. I'd be curious to see what Max and Jake said about that. But I love it. It's a great name. You're gonna hear that name a lot in this review. Love saying it. But what the hell is Tombwater? If you go to their website, it's quoted as a Souls-like Western game. Explore the accursed Wild West town of Tombwater, gun down the elder chores that lie beneath, survive blood-spilling combat, and this gruesome 2D action RPG that might just drive you to madness. So when you kind of boil it down, this game is basically old school Zelda mixed with like Bloodborne or Dark Souls, which I'll just start calling Soulsborne like everyone else does. Tomb Raider's on PC right now for 25 bucks. It runs pretty much on any PC, I would guess, as well as the Steam Deck. I have one. I didn't play it on that, but I know a lot of the reviews said it runs perfect on it, which I think that's great. But honestly, that's not why I'm here. There's way better reviewers for that. There's a ton of reviewers that are great at like, the technical under the hood stuff. I'm not that guy. I play games for various amount of reasons just like anyone else, but for me, the hook, the thing that connects me to a game is exploration. When I look at some of my favorite games of all time, like Elder Scrolls Morrowind, classic World of Warcraft, a couple games that like exploration is the focus of the game. And I think that's why I've always connected with like Soulsborne games as well. When I think about Tombwater, that's why I'm kind of connected to it, and I really enjoyed it because there's a huge level of exploration that's fun in the game. And obviously, when I say exploration, I mean like the world, the characters, the story, the nooks and crannies, the hand placed things. But exploration also means like the game mechanics, like how does it work, all those kind of things. So in my mind, Tomb Raider really excels at that. And that's why for my first ever review that I'm putting on YouTube, that I wanted to like review a game like Tomb Raider, and I'm glad that this is the game I chose. So when we're talking about exploration further, I want to give an example of like a moment in the game, which you're gonna have happen a lot of times. There's an old Spanish fort at one point that you're fighting these ancient, decrepit conquistadors, and then in the corner of their eye, you see like an entryway into the mountainside, and it compels you to go in through that doorway. Like you didn't need to. Like I was trying to get to the top of the fort, but for some reason that door through the into the cave really compelled me to go in. I didn't have a choice. And I went in, and next thing you know, I'm fighting a boss. I'm getting a unique weapon, maybe a unique spell, maybe even a doorway out the back end that sends me to a whole optional area. The game rewards you for doing that. And I love that. I love video games that reward you for going off the beaten path or reward you for taking the risk and gambling, um, your character to go to an area that, maybe it's not connected to pushing the main narrative forward, but you'll get a bunch of fun stuff from it. And this game continuously does that. You'll also repeatedly catch yourself swinging at walls looking for hidden doors, a video game classic. It's great in this game. It really fits. And you will go the opposite direction of where you should go for the main quest, like I mentioned before. You'll get lost sometimes. There's so many optional zones and bosses. There's a zone or two that I didn't even see that I know's in the game, but I just ended up not seeing. And if I do a second playthrough, I will go to those areas. Maybe one critique I saw from like other people, and I kind of agree with them a little bit, is that the starter area, the Grand Central Station area, it's a little Byzantine in nature. Like it's very like mazy, and like there's a lot of locked doors and gates, and like it's pretty confusing because the map they give you isn't the best map I've seen in a game. The map like kind of lags a little bit, and it's just really not detailed, so it's very easy to get lost in it. But like honestly, after about an hour, you'll find your bearings, you'll get used to how the game flows, and then before you know it, you'll be out of that starter area, and you'll start to kind of go towards those other regions, other zones, and You'll notice as you go, it becomes less mazy and more like a single pathway with branching paths, which kind of makes it not linear, but close to that, which I kind of prefer. I like the branching paths instead of like the maze-like, nature that the first zone has. But that's something that you get through pretty quickly, and it's really not that big of a deal. While you're exploring this, amazing game, the art style is great. It's creepy, it's gross, it's fun, it's got cowboys. There's some like almost looks like a Chinese like fighting characters or like little mini bosses. There's a lot of different things going on in this game that I really like. And the art style never felt repetitive. There's always something new. Each zone that you went to is new. It never felt like, oh, I'm in the same town the whole game. You're exploring the greater area of Tombwater. And that's what I really enjoyed about that. I want to go back to the Spanish Fort, one of my favorite zones. I live in Southern California. I love the old Spanish style aesthetic of homes and buildings and all that. And so that zone kind of clicked with me really well. But there's a ton of zones that are excellent, they're great. And I can really tell that Max and Jake really put a lot of love and effort into like creating the artwork for the game. It's awesome. I love it. And I kind of did a little bit of research on like, especially Max's background. And he's made other games before. He made like a Bloodborne kind of demake, kind of really similar to this game. I pretty much feel like he built this game on top of that in a lot of ways. And you can really see how he's grown as an artist between that game and this one. So it's really fun to see. He's really developed a nice talent for it. I do want to say there's one part of the game that's a little lacking for me, and it's not a big deal because there's other aspects that cover it up. But some of the music for certain zones are kind of maybe a little understated, really simple, like slow playing guitar, or like there's not a lot going on with it. Other areas it's great, the boss fights, it speeds it up. But to give a kind of example of why it's a little lacking for me is there's a zone that you're in where there's no music and it's almost like silent, and it's perfect. Like it's such a cool moment to have. But I think it would have been even better if the other zones the music was more prominent, because it would really make you think about how much like you're missing that sound and you're feeling isolated with no music in the background. So I would say that's the only area where it's a little lacking in that, but the other parts of the sound design are excellent. The sounds of the weapons, the spells, the power behind the shot of the Winchester, which was my favorite gun in the game. I love the Winchester. The explosions of the grenades are meaty. The cactus grenade slaps. It just when it hits, you just hear those, the spines from the cactus just shoot out. I think we have some real, expert developers that know how to like incorporate sounds into like movement and things that you do in the game. Nothing felt disjointed. Every action had a clear sound response. I think in classic video game style, especially in a Soulsborne style, the bosses kind of give you sound cues when they're about to do a move. So if you struggle with a boss and it's kicking your ass a little bit, kind of listen to the sounds it gives, and you can kind of see, okay, the boss is about to do that, and so you can dodge it. All these sounds that these weapons, like the bolt action rifle, the explosion of the dynamite, the scream of monsters that they slam their fists down trying to kill you, are amazing. They sound great, but the combat has to match the quality of this, and I think it does. Once you get used to the controls, it really clicks. Like at the start, it feels a little clunky. You can only attack in four directions. It's just a little awkward. The gunplay is like twin stick shooter, but you don't use guns constantly. So once you kind of get used to it, it really flows. And I think one of my favorite parts about the combat is it's kind of got a Bloodborne-esque kind of thing where like your gun has a certain amount of ammo, and every time you shoot it, you use that ammo. Like a pistol uses one bullet, the cannon uses all of your bullets. The way you get your bullets back is by attacking enemies with a melee weapon or having some kind of spell or charm or consumable. So it kind of forces you to like use the game systems to reload your gun in a way, and I love that. Enemies hit hard and fast, so hit and run tactics cause you to go in and out, hit a guy, back out, shoot your gun, throw a grenade, go in, hit a guy. So it's a really fun, frenetic gameplay loop that's expressive too, because there's all these different types of weapons, guns. You choose what you want to do. And I think the boss fights are great in this game. There's a couple that were a little confusing at first for me, but after I died one time, I was like, okay, I get the mechanic here. I get the gimmick with this boss. And then it's just a fun fight, and you can use your skill expression to beat it in a multitude of other ways. Pacing, I would say the pacing of this game is absolutely top tier. it's constantly moving you forward and giving you something new to play with, and it never feels boring. And like I said before, like there's always a new zone that looks unique from the previous. So these new spells, mechanics, weapons, they always bring something new and it kind of stacks neatly on above it. And when I talk about pacing, I think most games really struggle. Most game developers struggle with pacing. It's something where it's a philosophical thing, but I absolutely hate level scaling in games. You know, Morrowind's one of my favorite games, and when I started playing Oblivion when I was younger, and all the mobs just like scaled to your level, I dislike that with a burning passion. I love games that they're set areas, and so when you go to them, you're gonna get your ass kicked in certain spots, but you're gonna come back later and you're gonna conquer that spot. And I love that, and this game does that, and that's why I've always loved Soulsborne games, and this game really fits neatly into that as well. If you're having a tough time, go somewhere else, go to a different spot, try to level up, get some other things and some new gear. So it really encourages that, and I love that. And the story is very simple. It's I'm not going to give anything away. I don't want to give any kind of spoilers. There's not too many to give away, but in the classic Soul style of storytelling, a lot of item descriptions tell you what's going on, short dialogues, flashbacks. It's a simple tale of you basically receiving a letter from an old mentor kind of inviting you to Tombwater, and you kind of are trying to find him throughout the game. And the story doesn't take a back seat, but it accompanies the main dish. Like the meat of the game, the rack of lamb, is the combat and the pacing and the world around it. But you need that red wine sauce paired with it, and that's what the story is. It's really nice. And then atmosphere, I would say it's gripping with tension, but surprisingly, there's some lighthearted moments that you'll encounter that really are so refreshing and a palate cleanser in a way. Very quickly, you'll meet a character named Catalina who I think is my favorite character in the game, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me. And she kind of adds a whole new element to like the atmosphere of the game that I didn't expect from something that's trying to be dark and gritty. And I also mentioned a section where it's dark, there's no music. I love that kind of stuff. It really suffocates you in certain spots. And the mobs become darker, more cultish, more eldritch, more Lovecraftian. The madness takes over as you go explore deeper. I love that. It's fun to mix this kind of element with like a Western style game. And just to end it off, I kind of want to say overall, I love this game. It fuses that old school Zelda with Souls mechanics and storytelling to create a tense, gripping game. Each aspect succeeds when it's trying to accomplish, with a few minor issues like, some of the music wasn't my favorite. There's a couple spots where the game felt a little mazy, but besides that, like, I couldn't stop playing it, and I genuinely had a blast playing this game. I just wanted to let you know that this game's 100% worth a buy. Max and Jake at Moth Alice, you created a game that I can tell you love, and you had a lot of passion behind it. And I look forward to your guys' next game, and I hope you guys look forward to my next video.